Hi, I'm Peter J. Ray. Welcome to Adventures in History. Today's topic is Dearest Mother and Dad, Love, Ruth, John, Mark, Patricia, and Peter, 1976, Part 160. Now, this is based on letters that were originally published in Small Shaw Family Memories Collection number 75, published on January 19, 2002. Daffodils, postcard, Kingwood Center, 900 Park Avenue West, Mansfield, Ohio, April 8, 1976. Miami, Florida, postmark, Dearest Mother. Hi! Our daffodils are fantastic, and I've taken bouquets to so many. Just wish I could bring you one. I took almost a roll of film of my flowers, daffs and hyacinths and magnolia, but couldn't get it developed in time to send you, so sending the postcard instead. I wanted to get a letter to Janet too before her big exciting trip. We're in Miami, Florida now and on to Nassau. Yesterday was so fantastic. The appeal court reversed the BB court and sent it back. It's on today's front page and yesterday's. John called me and couldn't talk. He wept. He did it. I've never seen anything so terrific. What a job. He worked so hard on it. God bless. Love, Ruth. Now this next letter or postcard goes back 6 years. It was written by my sister Pamela, Ruth and John's daughter, oldest daughter, and it was she was 15 years old. Well, La Catedral de Mexico, Mexico City, Mexico, June 17th, 1970. Dear folks, this is a card to Gus and George Smallshaw, Ruth's parents. Yesterday we arrived and checked in at the GS hostel. It's really beautiful here. This morning we visited the Place de la Reforma, the Statue of Independence in Alameda Park. We're having a wonderful time. Love, Pam. 21508 Avalon Drive, Rocky River, Ohio, March 2nd, 1976. Dearest Mother and Dad, I miss seeing your familiar blue letter in the mail lately. Thought I saw one, but it was a different one. Patty says that I should save your letters for when I won't get any. Of course I have. There were many years when I was so busy that I didn't write often and took your letters for granted. I certainly hope that you haven't or don't yet have this terrible flu. If you haven't, you should stay away from people for a while, for I'm sure it would finish you off. I didn't write last week because I was afraid I'd transmit the germs by mail. I understand that there's a lot of it in Florida, so hope Bud and Joan didn't pick it up or bring it home. I'm anxious to hear how they enjoyed their trip and how Brian and Janet fared. I am sure Dad is glad she has a new Tom. I meant to write to them while Bud was gone, but sure they are busy. I about thought I'd die from this flu and still have John in bed, and Peter went into an earache. Patty's voice is gone, but she's still going and hope she stays well to play her viola solo with the orchestra Friday night. I'm feeling bad that I haven't invited more people to hear her play. There'll be a crowd, but wish more of our friends were coming. We're having a reception there, and I'm hoping to have something back here at the house if I ever get off my duff and get something done. 2 weeks ago, I had a friend over whose son, about Mark's age, died in Mexico City at the American Embassy last June 1st. We talked for several hours. Then I had an assignment with Fish. It's a volunteer group started in England by an Anglican priest and in the U.S. by Bishop Dewitt, who ordained women priests, and a friend from church who is in my Bible study class and got it started here. I was to drive a woman age 73 who said she was nearly blind, she wasn't, and diabetic to the doctor. I asked her if she was sure if she had to go. I've had so many trips that I felt weren't too necessary. It started to snow as I left. It was a fairly long trip, quite a way. When we got there, the doctor was out of town and her appointment was next week. a month, so I brought her home for tea. The reason for her appointment was because she said she had to have her blood sugar checked, but when I offered her a piece of cake, she said diabetes wasn't that bad and ate a piece. I took her home and visited with her. Most of these people are just lonely, Patty says. I went to bed feeling fine, but that night I awoke and felt like something terrible was happening in my throat and lungs. In the morning I had such a terrible headache and felt like I wanted to die that whole day. We were supposed to go to dinner with Carly and Dick Donaldson for a roast beef dinner at the country club, so we canceled that. The next day I still felt bad, and so did Peter, and so John and Patty went to the AFS chicken dinner. Sunday I was still in bed, and we all missed the Oberlin Orchestra concert. John and Patty went to church, and Patty was crucifer. I hated to miss seeing her. Monday I was still weak, but managed to make the plane for Milwaukee. Everyone said how awful I looked. Tuesday morning, John did a tremendous job in the Peter Beebe appeal, but I wasn't too sure that the court was listening. John sure tried his very best. One of the judges even said that it might be a Christian church but not Episcopal. I really am getting so fed up with the hypocritical aspect of it all, as Dad has said for so long. It really infuriates me to think that men have to allow women to be priests, or anything else for that matter, and women themselves are their own worst enemies. Anyway, in the afternoon I could tell John was getting tired. He was getting the flu. The plane ride home was a nightmare. Landed 3 times and in Detroit was open and cold for half an hour. John had a temperature of 103 and I could hardly get him off the plane, and he's been in bed ever since with a cough. We had to call lawyers and judges to cancel his trials, and his partners keep calling. Today I really blew up at Joe Schneider. I told him he'd really taken the heart out of it for John, when John had worked so darn hard for that law firm for so many years. I've just about had a nervous breakdown this winter. Everything seems so black and empty and meaningless. I feel like I've lost my soul. Even my lovely little crocuses coming up didn't thrill me like they usually do. I guess it's change of life and thinking of Patty going to college and this big empty house, and afraid of losing John. I'm so proud of you painting a lamp. You really are a wonderful inspiration. I'm so happy that you've been able to keep your house and even help Bud's family. But it's wonderful that you are near your church and have kept up with your friends. I even don't feel like I have any friends. I was so busy for so many years and had a lot of people, but don't get meaning from it all. Really cracking up. I feel like Icarus, that I flew too high and melted my wings. Mark's friend Jeff's brother was burned to death, aged 25. I went out to see his folks. The memorial service was last night. Bud does still have his family. I hope you're okay. Love, Ruth. 21508 Avalon Drive, Rocky River, Ohio, 44116, March 8, 1976. Dearest Mother and Dad, I wrote such a depressed letter to you that I thought I'd better amend it. I do feel better. The sun is shining and my crocuses are all in bloom, but what really helped is getting busy for Patty's solo concert and reception and seeing more people. How very much I wish that you could have seen and heard her. She was just lovely and so poised and in control. She wore my long black evening skirt and Pamela's white ruffled blouse. They gave her a dozen carnations in shades of pink on the stage. Before, Ann Whites had sent a lovely pink rosebud and carnation arrangements in a teacup and saucer with violets on it, and afterwards the Talberts brought a yellow daisy arrangement. They had a nice reception there afterwards, and then we had almost 30 people back here, and I had punch, coffee, cakes, and a buffet. So it did me good to get busy and have people here. It's mostly lonely and dull, although I have lots to do here. You are very wise to get out as much as you do, but do hope that you don't get this flu. I'm so glad Bud and Joan had a good trip. Pretty expensive just to go to Florida in February. We found that you really can't enjoy Florida until about April, at least to depend on it, unless you go down to the Florida Keys. The Bahamas, Jamaica, Mexico, and Hawaii are really the only warm places close by for early spring or winter. I'm sure that they enjoy Disney World and good to get good tans and get away from the snow. If we go to the Bahamas, it will be a month from today. John has made reservations, but don't know if we'll be able to make it. Janet will be going to England soon, too. Patty is planning a trip to Norway in August and in June goes on her wilderness trip for 2 weeks. Mark will graduate from Oberlin in May and Patty from high school in early June, the first week. John went back to work, but we both have slight coughs. Thank you for writing about Helene. I think you had written, but I'd forgotten about it. It's good that they went close together when they were so close. Patty got a likely from Dartmouth and Brown. Brown had 9,000 applicants for 1,250 spaces, so take less than 1 out of 8, so she was thrilled with a likely and will know soon. It's so expensive, $7,000 a year. Bud is lucky to have his at home with him. I do wish that you and John's mother and Helen could have been here to hear Patty play her solo. Chip Richmond came. There was a good crowd, but you wish that the people close to you could share it. Peter taped it, so maybe we could send it on tape. Do you remember Jean Barth, who was in the Bahamas at the same time we were? She had a radical mastectomy, and I took her out some flowers today. She's in good spirits. I also took Marilyn Garrett some pussy willows and forsythia. Her daughter is home from college, so they were cooking. So good for Marilyn, she can hardly move. Jean works as a head of volunteers at Metropolitan General Hospital. Stopped by to see Dorothy Day. Her son Jeff used to visit us, Mark's best friend. Her other son burned to death in a fire last week. I'd taken her some flowers. She works for the Senior Citizens Home, Knickerbocker, in Bay Village. Shar now works for the Barton Senior Citizen Center in Lakewood as activities director. I'm certainly sorry to hear from Bud that Betty is worse when he wrote last fall. John has been doing the income tax and also has been in charge of the fertilizer sale for the Boy Scouts. They will have to deliver it all Saturday. I just watched the TV show All in the Family, where Edith's daughter buys her a pantsuit and wants to take them out to dinner, but Archie won't go. He goes out with the boys, but never takes her. I'm so proud of you painting a lamp. I'm going to have to get some new commitments when Patty leaves. God bless. I love you. I'm proud of you. I hope you stay well. Love, Ruth. Now we have a letter based on the original publication, or a letter to the editor based on the original publication from John S. Ray, Ruth's husband and my father. Dear editor, another great picture of Pam and Dick Morris. Thank you for sharing it in SFMC number 75. I enjoyed the clippings. I had forgotten about Patricia's writing award. The Boy Scouts were certainly an important part of all of our lives. The adverse trial court verdict reversed the BB case, the high point of my legal career. All the family members are so busy. I very much enjoyed the Dick Morris sermon. He referred to a prior sermon by Lou Brereton, who was a wonderful man. Great family pictures. Thank you. Love, Dad. John S. Ray, Cleveland, Ohio. Well, that concludes today's presentation. Thanks so much for watching. Really appreciate it. God bless you. Take care, and I'll see you next time.